Ever wondered if there's a magic number when it comes to depositing checks through your phone? Like, can you just snap a picture of 100 checks and call it a day? Or is there some hidden limit lurking in the fine print? That's exactly what we're diving into today, the world of mobile check deposit limits. We live in a world of instant gratification. We can order a pizza at 2 a.m., stream any movie we want, and yes, even deposit checks from the comfort of our couches. But just like everything else, there are rules. And understanding these rules, especially when it comes to your money, is crucial. Now, before we get into the specifics, let's talk about why these limits exist in the first place. It's not just some arbitrary number a bank pulls out of thin air. There are a few key reasons. First, it's about security. Banks have systems in place to prevent fraud and money laundering. Limits help them manage the flow of funds and identify any suspicious activity. Think of it like a bouncer at a club, making sure things don't get out of hand. They're not trying to ruin your fun, they're trying to keep everyone safe. Second, it's about risk management. Banks are in the business of lending money, and they need to manage the risk associated with those loans. If everyone could deposit unlimited amounts of checks instantly, it would be much harder for banks to assess the actual funds available. They need time to verify that those funds are real and not, say, a photocopy of a check from your Monopoly game. Third, it's about operational capacity. Even though it seems like magic, mobile check deposit involves a lot of behind-the-scenes processing. Banks have to handle a massive volume of transactions every day. Limits help them manage that volume and ensure that everything runs smoothly. Imagine a highway during rush hour. Without any traffic rules, it would be complete chaos. Limits are like those traffic rules, keeping everything organized. So, the big question, is there a limit? The short answer is yes. But the long answer, as always, is it depends. It depends on a few factors. The most important factor is your bank. Each bank sets its own limits for mobile check deposit. These limits can vary widely. Some banks might have a daily limit, others a weekly limit, and some might even have a monthly limit. And it's not just about the dollar amount. Some banks also limit the number of checks you can deposit within a certain time frame. So, you might be able to deposit $5,000 in a single check, but only up to $10,000 per day, or only 3 checks per day. Another factor that can influence your limit is your account history. If you're a new customer, or if you have a history of overdrafts or bounced checks, your limits might be lower. The bank wants to make sure you're a reliable customer before they let you deposit large sums of money through your phone. It's like building trust in any relationship, it takes time. Your deposit history also plays a role. If you regularly deposit large checks, your bank might be more willing to increase your limits. They see you're a responsible customer and are comfortable with you handling larger amounts of money. Think of it like getting a raise at work. You've proven yourself, so you get more responsibility. And finally, the type of check you're depositing can also matter. Some banks have different limits for different types of checks. For example, they might have a lower limit for personal checks than for government checks or cashier's checks. This is because some checks are considered riskier than others. A personal check, for instance, could bounce if the person who wrote it doesn't have enough money in their account. A cashier's check, on the other hand, is guaranteed by a bank, so it's considered much safer. Now, where can you find out what your specific limits are? The best place to look is your bank's website or mobile app. Most banks clearly state their mobile check deposit limits in their terms and conditions or in their FAQs. You can also call your bank's customer service line. They'll be able to give you the most up-to-date information about your limits. Don't be afraid to ask. It's your money, and you have the right to know the rules. So, let's say you've checked your bank's website and found your limits. What happens if you try to deposit a check that exceeds your limit? Well, the most likely scenario is that the deposit will be rejected. You will probably get a notification on your phone or through your bank's app telling you that the deposit was unsuccessful. It might even give you a reason, like exceeds daily limit or exceeds check limit. In some cases, the bank might hold the check for review. They might want to verify the funds or ask you for more information. This can delay the availability of your funds, so it's always best to stay within your limits. Now, what if you need to deposit a check that's larger than your limit? Don't worry, you're not out of options. You can always deposit the check in person at a branch or ATM. This might be a bit less convenient than mobile deposit, but it's a reliable way to deposit larger checks. You can also talk to your bank about increasing your mobile deposit limits. They might be willing to do so if you have a good account history and a valid reason for needing higher limits. Another important thing to remember is that mobile check deposit limits are just one aspect of your banking. You should also be aware of other limits, such as ATM withdrawal limits and transfer limits. Knowing all these limits can help you manage your money more effectively and avoid any surprises. So, to recap, yes, there are limits for mobile check deposits. These limits vary depending on your bank, your account history, your deposit history, and the type of check you're depositing. You can find out your specific limits by checking your bank's website or mobile app, or by calling customer service. If you try to deposit a check that exceeds your limit, it will likely be rejected. But you can always deposit larger checks in person at a branch or ATM. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.